up, though? This your boy DOC, and I got a special guest on the line. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, bro.
Spotter Loco, the most easty is I you see is the Baymack boss.
For sure, for sure. Well, I definitely appreciate you taking this interview. I appreciate the opportunity. So I want to start it off where, so where exactly are you from out there? Not, I know that terminology for y'all may be different. I'm not asking you like in a gang way, but like where you from out there in California?
I'm from Los Angeles County.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually born in the city of Compton. The city of Compton no longer even contains a hospital, so the hospital has been torn down. But Los Angeles, Compton, Watts, and the east side of South Central. Driving distance total, you can go back and forth in a matter of 20 minutes. So it's a real close proximity, Compton, Watts, and the east side of South Central. So I'm from that general area, close to Carson, Gardena, Long Beach, any of those areas you might be familiar with, Hawthorne.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what era would you say that you grew up in? Was that like the Reagan era out there, or after that, before that, or what era would you say you came up in out there?
Well, not really being familiar with those politicians and the exact era that they covered, I would probably describe it through the Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar era.
Okay. So, like, seeing how the world is today, looking back on when you grew up, in that area, how would you describe that time, growing up, while you was a kid?
Well, it depends on what perspective you're looking from. As I compare it to these times now, I would have to call it a time of a lot more accountability, definitely. Where it seemed like just in general people kind of cared about how they present themselves. Now it seems like anything goes more so than it did back then.
Yeah. And do you think, I hear a lot of people, like sometimes when that question is asked, some people say that it's, our generation fault or the older generation fault that, caused this generation to be like that. Do you look at it the same way, or do you think what do you think actually caused for this generation to be like the total opposite of the generation that's out here?
The more I study the effects of oppression and slavery, I'm convinced it's something that's been put in effect long before our generations. And I feel like we can't fault generation prior to us or the one prior to that. I think that as a people, there's a systematic attempt to hold us back in this society, to dismantle us as a unified power, and I feel like that is the cause and the blame. I think each generation have shared this responsibility in falling for the lie and being fooled. But as a people, I think it's time for us to start realizing that the reason why we have these issues are not necessarily because we are a bad group of people, but there are the forces that be who have sought to make sure that we find ourselves in this position.
Right. So during that time when you was growing up, was gangs already heavy in your area, or that was all that was around you?
Well, yeah, I grew up in a very, very heavy gang-infested area. All the areas that you may have heard about through the media or read about, all the areas that niggas was rapping about, Compton, Watts, South Central, or the areas that I'm native to.
Right. Would you consider yourself as a person that was like more or less born in it, or was it a particular situation that ended up getting you, to get into the streets?
I was born in the environment, but the actual activity was just attractive to me. I actually was fortunate enough to have a mother. I did have a single mother who who gave it her best shot to keep me away from the actual activity that was going on in the streets right here, but it was just kind of hard because, you use public transportation to get back and forth to school, and you're just right here. And being a mischievous boy, it was just hard to keep me away from it.
Right. Do you remember
I definitely had a choice.
So you feel okay? All right, because I was gonna ask that.
I had a choice. Yeah, I definitely had a choice.
when that, let me say, so I guess I'll jump into that part, because I was going to ask, was the streets the only option you had to make it in your current circumstances?
Oh, not by far. I was an individual blessed with many gifts, just natural gifts and talents. I was far from dumb. So if I feel like anything I applied myself to, I could have had the opportunity to be successful at.
Definitely. Now, like if you were speaking to someone that was younger, like 13, 14, 15 coming up, and with all the game and information that you know now, and a lot of people would call the streets like a gift and a curse, would you, like, have you ever been faced with betrayal, and like how would you explain that to someone that's maybe that age thinking about getting into the streets, to kind of tell them, both sides of the game, where it ain't all glitz and glamour, that you can be betrayed by, or if you ever even face that with your people?
Well, I will quote, I got a new CD out right now, EP called Politicking. It's a song called What's Happening, featuring Slim 400 and Compton AD. Well, that's the wrong record. It's a song called Active featuring C. Heck and K9 the Boss, and I say, the turf will turn you out and turn you in. Off top, gang enhancement gonna earn you 10. So with just that little 2-bar segment, what I'm trying to tell to a youngster is, yeah, this turf right here where we from, it'll turn you out and have you out here doing wild shit. And the same niggas that invited you to come be a part of them and have you out here doing wild shit would then turn around and turn you in. And just because you down with them, fuck what your crime is. When you get in that courtroom, the judge gonna give you 10 years off top. So that's what you up against if you want to try to follow in the footsteps of some of the fools like myself.
Now, during this time when you was coming up, were you already, what was like your first introduction to the, to rapping, like personally rapping or hearing music? Like, what was your first introduction to it?
What I can remember is being in the 5th or the 6th grade, not sure which one it was because I had the same teacher for both grades. Shout out Miss Epps. And we had a assignment to write a story with all our spelling words. Then we had 20 spelling words weekly. And for some reason, I was motivated to put mine in a rhyme. When I got up in front of the class and started reading it, all the class started clapping onto a little beat, and I kind of rapped onto the beat, and there was birthed my career.
So let me ask you this: like, when you first started, like, actually taking rap serious, was the homies or the people around you supportive of that, or did you have to separate yourself a little bit from them to be able to, take your rap career serious?
I've always been fortunate enough, at least on the upfront, is to have people be supportive. Shout out my homie, rest in peace, baby Betrayal, Eastside Mob, Front Street Watts, because he was a young nigga, young ghetto rich nigga, who I remember inviting him to the studio, and he'd be like, I ain't gonna go, cuz he like, I just want one of my niggas to invite me to the studio when they make it. So I ain't never really had nobody really make it. Before I actually can consider myself having made it, my nigga passed. And a lot of times I sit back and just wish cuz or wonder and hope he has some type of idea what took place after he passed. Rest in peace, Crip. But yeah, I never had nobody really like express no doubt in my ability. Nobody that was right up around me. I think everything that I was capable of doing was pretty apparent and obvious to anyone, to all my peers.
Right. Okay. Yeah, the reason why I kind of asked that question, like, even for myself, I may see, like, okay, if I take on a new endeavor that may be different from other people, and I guess that is the way where you could tell who your real friends are, real family is, like, being in a situation where people may not be supportive. Like, how do you maneuver through that? You know what I mean? Like, from
now with the ups and downs of things not going quite as way to plan, and you having to find a fortification within yourself to stick it out, then you start finding out who's on your side. Because, my career took a natural course of progression to where there was never really any room for people to doubt. For me, getting out of prison, getting on the record with Cam, then meeting Sebo, then meeting Suge, and then meeting G Unit, anyone from close around me, it seemed like I knew what I was doing. Things were going right.
Right.
Now, from the G Unit, not quite doing what it was supposed to do, and then it started to look like the first time progress was going the other direction, and me sticking it out. Then you start seeing people have different suggestions on what you might need to be focusing on and not being as supportive. Got to show you might not be able to round up as many homies as quick as you could beforehand. You know, yeah, you see it's different when you get to that struggle, that up climb again.
Right. So around what years was it? So your first feature was with Cam first? Well, like I wouldn't say feature, but like maybe from across the way.
That's a good way to say it. First time I actually did something that let me know I was going to be on for it, being on somebody's shit. I could go in the store, tell somebody to go in the store and pick up a CD with my name on it. Yeah, Cam.
How did y'all end up plugging together?
Well, ironically enough, my neighborhood and his is quite close. And I remember being a youngster, going up to 99th Street School. They had some little courts where we could dunk on. Niggas used to go run basketball games up there. And I used to go up there and run, being aware of Cam, not really aware if he was aware of me or not. And then years after that, after going to prison and getting out, my homeboy Wino from 190, cuz was working with Coolio and doing some shit, and he knew about just about everybody that was on the rap scene on the West Coast. So I started going through there to Wino house, fucking with Wino, Blue Da Vinci. That's where I first encountered Blue from 1902. Him and Spade. They was a group called the Lower Class. Shout out Spade.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Cam Reed appeared in my life because he was over there working with Wino. And Wino and Cam put out an album together called Camnesia on Hard Time Records, and I was affiliated with the homie in the label, and Cam let me get on his album because he was doing it with the homie at that time.
Okay. And was like those early works and stuff like that is what ended up catching the attention of like G Unit and 50 at that time, or what would you say is what made y'all catch wind of each other?
I never had the total depth of understanding of how aware 50 was of me prior to meeting me. From the moment he met me, I would have had to imagine he was not aware of me whatsoever. And then after having a few telephone conversations with him and trying to like figure out in my mind how I was going to be able to discuss with him this Suge situation I had just went through, I realized he was already aware of that and told me he didn't give a fuck about Suge and how he felt about what we was trying to do. But then we never went into conversation about the past for him to give me any idea that he was aware of my existence prior to meeting me. So if I had to just go from facts, 50 was sold on dealing with me within the first few moments of he met me because I interrupted him having a very, very important conversation, very serious conversation with Young Buck in front of a lot of people, where it was the first time Young Buck had spoke to 50 after the G Unit Spinner had became stolen. And I walked into a trailer and 50 was getting on his head about that subject. And shortly after entering the trailer, I just started drowning him out by rapping. And everything that you know for me and 50 to go through together started from that moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you
that's the same way it happened with Buck in the first place. When I met Buck in Atlanta, he was talking to a room full of people about the same incident. It was a very serious tone conversation where he had the floor totally to himself, and I just started drowning him out without permission, over drowning, and started rapping. And that's how we started our G Unit conquest.
Word. Like pushing your craft on them to let them know that you was there.
Doing something that is totally the wrong thing to do, something I could not advise anyone else to do, something that probably would never work again. Nobody gives a fuck about nobody's acapella flow enough to sign them. It's just, it just goes to show the spirituality of my experience. I don't have the expertise. I've never had a appropriate management team. I've never had any experts really attempting to help me maximize my exposure. It's just being me in the sense of Moses at the Red Sea dropping the stick. I just trust God. It's like I get to the ocean and God say drop the stick, so I just been dropping the stick and I've seen mountains move. So that's what I've been using. No way in the world I could tell you I would ever repeat that moment of just drowning somebody out that I never met that can actually provide something for me. That was very rude of me. So for me to be able to like trust my back intuition to drown these men out and for it to work, it's just deep.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to take advice. It's hard for me to take advice when you can make backwards decisions like that and they work for you. It's like advice is like real hard for me to take because I got a backwards kind of math that kind of adds up for me.
Yeah. You normally the type of person that just to do what other people not gonna do, or when everybody going left, you go right.
I mean, I definitely the crowd. I mean, I'm not a fool. If I'm somewhere and I see the whole crowd just running, yeah, I'm going to pay attention. But I pretty much believe that I've been blessed with a gift of first thought leadership. And I believe that God communicates through the universe to me directly. And I feel like sometimes I get the message first. If you're always looking to other people for the message, you'll never be able to receive your message directly.
Yeah, that's real. That's real.
Reading the Bible, trying to figure out what some people went through with God thousands of years ago, and God is still living today, trying to communicate with somebody.
Yeah.
Holler at me, Lord. I'm listening.
Right. Yeah. I feel that. I respect that for real. When was the first time, like, so after that process went through, you know, you rapping and everything, even with the situation with Buck, when would you say, because I see as of recently, you know, you voice your opinion about stuff, because later in the interview I was going to ask you, like, what made you get to that point now, but since we already on it, but, like, what was the very first thing? Was it the situation where 50 and them was doing the live stream and you seen the lack of support for you as an artist? Was that the first time you noticed something was wrong with, like, your promotion, or was it anything behind the scenes that really was going on?
I won't say that was the first thing. And I know you're trying to be precise, but I really appreciate precision, and I've tried to avoid from giving opinions and just sticking to the facts.
Right.
I haven't really called myself giving my opinion on many things lately, but I have been releasing some facts just based on that was a moment right then and there. Whether it was the first moment, I could probably go back to that moment as one of the moments, like they say, the straw that broke the camel's back. You know, like if you let a nigga piss on you and tell you it's water, you the fool.
Right.
So the word hating is what it is. Anytime a CEO finds himself in that position and he responds the way 50 did, I don't need nobody to tell me that was hating on. Just left it, even at the question itself. I've had niggas call me when that first happened, excited, trying to tell me, hey, 50 just mentioned you like it was a good thing. I'm like, cuz, I had to look at it again, trying to see it the way they saw it. I didn't see nothing good in it. Well, shortly after that, I spoke to him. He apologized, blamed it on some gang shit, other shit, and he was going in the public often, not mentioning my name. And a few days after that, I challenge you, or anyone to do the research, a few days after that, he was on 106 in Park. And he had just recently apologized when I questioned him about that interview. And so when on 106 in Park, he gave me a shout out. It was about 2 or 3 days afterwards. And then after that, I didn't hear much more mention of me.
And y'all never fully got past that particular situation. See, that's the crazy thing, I guess, from the outside looking in. I would wonder why a person would, sign a person or bring them in and then not want to push them.
Let me tell you what happened, bro. It's a problem with 50 Cent's relationship that he had with the distributor that caused him to have to make decisions that he probably didn't plan on making. Once he realized his name is Jackson, that is already a slave name. Then a nigga was so much feeling himself, he tried to put Interscope on his name, bro. So when you think you that big of a nigga that you can add Interscope in your name, you have fucking lost it. You somehow thought your relationship had surpassed Dr. Dre's with Jimmy Iovine. You was running around calling yourself Curtis Interscope Jackson. I wonder why he doesn't put that in his name no more. I still have my same name. I'm Spotter Lope, No Brain, the most Easty. That's who I am. I don't have to change my name. Why is he no longer Curtis Interscope Jackson?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So once you just, without even knowing all the details of what that entailed or included, just think the nigga thought he was Curtis Interscope Jackson. That there he goes, let you know his head was fucked up, man. I believe he had intentions on doing the right thing at one point, but I believe he was very selfish, very self-centered. That nigga was so discombobulated at one point. My cousin was in security, Big Dame, for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
He's security for Chris Brown right now. But I remember it was a time when Big Dame was realizing my communication level had changed with 50 Cent, and he wasn't appreciating it. So they was out here by USC rehearsing for an award show. So that nigga Big Dame was calling me like, man, come down here right now, man. I'm watching this nigga rehearse right now. I just talked to him 5 minutes ago. And I don't think Big Dame was even security guard for 50 no more, but he was there at the rehearsal with him. So he pumped me up to come down there and holler at Fifth to try to see, what kind of rhythm I could get reestablished because Fifth wasn't really communicating correctly. So I'm sitting there talking to 50, and this is when he was preparing the album to come out around the same time with Kanye.
Yeah.
And and I was trying to get at him about my, my release and, what can I do, what's happening. That nigga told me, look, Spider, you're going to have to fall back because they're looking for my album to save hip-hop right now. If my album doesn't do well, hip-hop is dead.
Yeah.
Hey, he was serious as a motherfucker, cuz. That nigga was serious.
Yeah.
I was just looking at him like, man, this dude different, man. He was just becoming different right before my eyes, man.
Yeah. Was there anyone particularly in G Unit that you built a bond with, like Young Buck? Y'all was one of the closest ones at that time.
Yeah, me and Young Buck was tight. First of all, he brought me to the table. So, and then Young Buck wanted to be a Crip so bad, he just gravitated to me and all my mannerisms and my style. So, as much as Buck brought me to the table, and when it came to the industry and things of luxury and richness, he was my big homie. He couldn't really function that way because he looking at me like a big homie because he wanted to be a gangbanger.
Mm.
But that was my boy, and me and Yayo, we hit it off pretty well just because I was an ex-con, and then Yayo was fresh out of prison. I think, most of the New York niggas, they didn't really have, the OG New York niggas didn't really have a Crip and Blood element. So it seemed like most of the niggas that I clicked with from New York who felt like that we was the same kindred spirit is because we had did time.
Right.
It was a newer generation with the Crip and Bloody, so Yayo seemed to have a lot of respect for me to the point where he held up his album when he got out of prison to allow me to be able to make it. I really appreciated that. And I just generally became the favorite of all the laymen, all the homies, everybody that was around, Buck crew, Banks crew, 50-Ho crew, all the regular niggas fucked with the low. Just look how, even though New York, when it comes to states or regions, is the last to sign up for this gangbang shit, they finally did as well. So when you see that Los Angeles has been responsible for basically setting the temperature, the tempo, the trend of the streets around the whole country now, it's kind of like easy to understand how someone authentically from the Mecca of that region with such an impeccable reputation would become a favorite. Because even if you look at Trav that run around with Slow Bucks, the rap nigga, that's my little homie. He's a blood now. But he was a young kid when I was around before he had much thug in him at all. I watched when he started going through it growing up and going through his transition. He even came out here and lived in Cali for a while and really got some of that real gangbang essence in him. I see him now, he's a grown man, and he looked like something to be, reckoned with. But I haven't really been able to chance to be around him since he's been out here pushing. But that was my little homie.
Right.
And that's when I see Money Ron, that was my nigga. I fucked with the goons over there. The goons fucked with me, although I was a rapper.
Yeah. How do you look at, like you're saying, at that particular time, the gangbang influence wasn't really in NYC yet. How do you view it now, like from the outside looking in, of what's going on in different regions, not just specifically New York or New York? Like, how do you look at how it's being represented? Do you think it's watered down because of the music industry, or do you think it's being represented in the real way?
I believe it's watered down in general overall. I believe some regions are less watered down than actually the Mecca, because believe it, out here it's watered down. So I believe that I don't really have a personal feeling about each different area's representation of it. I think it's gotten so big and beyond us that it doesn't really matter how I or we feel. I feel honored I still feel honored, though, whether I should or not, I feel honored to be a part of the original format. And I feel honored even what y'all might not know when it comes to Los Angeles. The C Rose on the east, the rest came from the west. I feel honored to be part of the actual original set. So, you know, it's expanded, it's changed. I think when it comes to the actual industry and people being able to represent it, I think that since everyone has a voice, certain things should not be tolerated. And when motherfuckers start mixing the promotion of homosexuality and rainbow with this gangbang shit, that's when I tap out all the way. You'll fuck around here. You know, I just can't get with that. Raising young men, you know, and it's such a Babylonian society, man, of America. It's like these rappers don't hold each other to no morals, no accountability.
You think
like nobody thought it was funny that Mr. C was getting head from transvestite? Everybody that was questioned about it said something all respectful and humble. Nobody even laughed, my nigga.
Yeah.
That's not the hip hop that I'm a part of, bro. I'm a voice for the rebels, the niggas that don't give a fuck. That's the hip hop that I support. That's where we come from.
Right. You think it's more because people value the bag or the money more than valuing the values and morals of what supposed to came with it?
Shout out Colin Kaepernick. Shout out Muhammad Ali. Yes, sir, I do.
Yeah.
I feel like reality is just very distorted for black people, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's like having that bag. Motherfuckers will give it all up for that bag.
Yeah. You ever been faced with...
I don't understand why every black motherfucker in the NFL don't take a knee. I don't get it. Like, why just don't every nigga do it? Like, then what they gonna do?
They the ones bringing in the money by actually being out there playing. I don't know if it's...
Exactly. And there's nothing illegal or disrespectful or derogatory about taking a knee in representation of all the black blood that's been shed out here in these streets without no retribution. There's nothing wrong with taking a knee. That's like a very solid thing to do, and they still got niggas spooked into doing it.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. Like, because once it's so many of them, you know, if it's a couple hundred of them, they can't fire all of them. You know what I'm saying? Or that's going to affect the league. You know what I'm saying? That's like...
Exactly.
I don't get it. You know, certain things people would stand for, and unfortunately Cap going through what he going through, it seemed like, you know, I don't think he in it to be a martyr or just to be remembered, that he actually want to make a real change, but it's like everybody got to be down with it as well, you know what I'm saying, and not just tweet about it and stuff like that. I think people that got caught up in society and thinking just because something, you know, goes viral or we get enough tweets that make a change in real life, and it don't, you know what I mean?